Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After lunch, in any case, the lights are also dark, so you have an option to close your eyes also. But let me first congratulate Economic Times for organizing this Digitech Conclave 22. The theme that was given to me was that this session is about securing people, devices, data, and of course, skilling the workforce to make them future ready. The key words that I take from here, I will start with the future ready part as to what is the horizon up to which we are looking at. To my mind, I don't think we should look beyond 2030 whenever we have these discussions of the future, because from 22 to 30, generally, we are aware of the direction that geopolitics is going to take, and consequently, the technology is going to take. And what I foresee is firstly the advent of 5G. The standards for 6G will start. As you're aware, it's a 10-year cycle, starting from 1G, 2G, 3G. If you calculate from 1980 onwards, every 10 years, you'll find like 4G came in 2010 and 3G in 2000, like that. So we foresee 6G coming at 2030. So these standards processes will take place in the 3GPP of the ITU, etc. in the coming years. And 5G rollout, as you're aware, is already starting from October in our country. It's already there in about 40 countries around the world. The second area which I'm still seeing in the future is the area of space. Not only the new constellations that are starting in the low Earth orbit, the OneWebs and the Starlinks, etc., a lot of activity around the drones, but also in the upper space, where, as you know, a new space station, International Space Station, is being made by China. And a new sort of space wars is starting. Now, a number of countries have started creating space commands. America, of course, was the first one to create the Space Force. But a lot of action will take place, and definitely wherever any technological activity is there, you can assume that cybersecurity is going to be an inherent part of it, and we'll start talking about it. So 5G, space, and the moment we talk of 5G, we are talking of IoT, connected devices. So if today there are 5 billion internet connected users, the moment 5G systems come in, it's going to increase to 25 billion because the devices are already there, they just have to be connected. So this is going to expand our cyberspace and the threat attack surface exponentially. Then of course the related issues of artificial intelligence and quantum and cryptography, etc. will come in. And this is the area which we now have to prepare for, and both for the workforce as well as for the data devices and the people aspect. The people aspect, I feel, is the most important. This year's October theme for the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month is also focused on people. It's titled "Seeing Yourself in Cyber." That is the theme for October. Some of you may not know it. It's just come out a few days back. The National Cybersecurity Awareness Month theme this year is "Seeing Yourself in Cyber." And the focus is on people, because all these years we've been saying it's the weakest link of the chain. But, we get 3,500 reports on cybercrime.gov.in of people losing money. And I get at least 10 to 20 calls every day of, the aggrieved parties as to what they should do. They're losing money. And it all starts with the people factor. They've just clicked on the wrong link or scanned the long QR code, etc. And I've been saying this earlier also, that the mantra for survival in the new normal, we can't keep calling it the new normal in the days to come, is only physical hygiene and cyber hygiene. These things have to be ingrained in us. Then only, survival will be comfortable for all of us in the days to come. So I'll take a pause here. These are the initial thoughts on my mind. As and when we have a Q&A, we can keep talking of cybersecurity for days and nights together. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for starting the good session on a good note. Uh, so now, with the kind of two thoughts that you shared, sir, one is the physical and the second is the digital. So पहले तो हम ये कहेंगे कि सर आपकी तबीयत जरूर ठीक रहनी चाहिए हमारे लिए, बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि आपके पास जो जॉब है या जो आप कर रहे हैं हमारे लिए वो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट साइबर टुडे एंड we all know that every day when we open the newspapers or when we read the articles or when we listen to our colleagues in industry, cyber is something which cannot go away anymore. It is going to be there, and everywhere, as it sir said, it is going to be impacting. In fact, we have in our slogan what we normally use, go anywhere, cyber is going to be there. Okay. So sir, इसी बहाने पे सर ये पूछना था आपसे कि आत्मनिर्भरता जो हम कह रहे हैं आज, where are we on that in two areas, capacity and capability, sir?
Hello. So, cybersecurity, as you're aware, has two verticals. There are the services and there are the products. In the services part, it includes managed services, it includes audit, it also includes education and awareness, carrying out VAPTs, red teaming, etc. So, from the indigenous capability point of view, we have, I would say, a satisfactory capability in the services part. The problem is in the other vertical, the products, where the spectrum starts with your endpoint security, then the XDR, and then their entire network devices security, including cloud, and then we come to the enterprise, where you have that fort and the moat and the firewall, IPS, IDS, SIEMs, or so that is where we have a long way to go. Some of the startups are doing a lot of good work in bits and pieces, but still, when any incident takes place of large enterprise, when I ask them for the remediation and the recovery, they are all going to companies which are not purely Indian. So this is a scope open for whoever is listening. That on the product side, there is a great scope for startups, for innovation, and for creating Atmanirbharta, as you said. But at least in the sensitive sectors, I can tell you two sectors that we consider as supercritical: telecom and power.
Okay.
Telecom, we have issued the National Security Directive on the telecom sector, where any product which is going to be connected to the telecom network of India will be a trusted product from a trusted source. So that part has been taken care of. The scheme was implemented from 15th of June last year. In the power sector, you'll be surprised to know that in all their verticals today of transmission, generation, distribution, grid operations, including non-renewable energy, we have created security operations centers. CISOs have been trained. The regulator, Central Electricity Authority, has issued very extensive guidelines, and that sector is also being tackled. So these two sectors we are tackling, but there's a long way to go.
And what about the transportation, talking about aviation and other sectors, sir?
Transportation, which includes air, shipping, railways, etc., is one of our critical sectors. So there is a concept
but still it would come after the power and...
Yeah, I mean, it's not that there's nothing, that they're already doing a good job.
Okay.
But as far as the focus is concerned, we are now going to, it's one of those 7 sectors for which we have raised an organization called the NCIIPC, the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. It is a big organization. It has 580 persons who are only tasked for protecting the protected systems, as they are called, of these 7 critical sectors.
Right.
So that work is already in progress.
Okay.
But as I said, as a super critical focus, we've tackled these two. The other two will also, I mean, the others will also be
fantastic. So as far as the part 2 of the product is concerned, Anthony sir se puchunga main. Anthony sir, you've been in one of the areas which is again supporting the government across India. What is your thoughts on the product part of it? Sir said that we are still, I would want to use the word slave to the foreign technologies and products. But where are we when it comes to using this technology? Are we still saying that by using that, there is still a gap in our security?
Okay, you are saying about in context of Almir
Product and technologies.
Yeah, because I think between products and technology, always there is an analogy of boat and water, because things will get mature when the use increases. whether it's software or hardware or any technology, things like that. Because the boat will rise when water rises, and similarly the vice versa. And the boat has no existence without water beneath that. So we have quite a lot of good products coming up in Indian market for our security needs, and further government is promoting that. Of course, if government is not promoting, who else will promote? So government is taking a lot of positive steps for promoting this indigenous products, and even from NIC side or government side, we have plotted some tenders for startups, targeting startups, things like that. So
it's normally we heard before this session also that we were talking about there were 100 unicorn companies in India, sir. Okay, none of them falls under the security paradigm. So again, audience, everybody who's here looking to start up, there is an opportunity to get in an Indian-grown cybersecurity product, which can be taken to the, a unicorn. So,
Since you mentioned unicorns in the security area, let me share with you, we gave a project to IIT Kanpur on blockchain,
okay,
national blockchain project. And last December, when the Prime Minister went for the convocation of IIT Kanpur, because of COVID, the physical students were not there. But he pressed a button, and through our national blockchain project, one of the offshoots is self-sovereign identity. And the degree went to 1,700 students in whatever device they had, immutable and somewhere they could store. So now the UGC and the AICT are saying that all the degrees they want to give through this blockchain project.
okay.
And the two BTech boys who are part of our project, next year they are going to become unicorns.
Oh, okay.
They want to
That's
open
applause, guys. This is very good news. There is a company which is going to go in the direction. Taking the question forward to Pavanji, while we understood Atmanirbharta mein thodi jagah baki hai, and we from a judiciary side, if I have to ask you that question, okay, sir, are we from a judiciary style capable enough, and we have capacity as an India has a capacity to deal with cyber crimes, or have very strong framework or guidelines which can protect you and me, of course, to start with, then of course the enterprise and the government.
So thanks. I would like to deal it from two levels. One is the intrinsic ability of the legal framework to protect us. India already has in place the Information Technology Act 2000 that we had passed 22 years back, and we amended it once in 2008. But the government has been coming up with various rules and regulations under the IT Act, including the IT Rules 2011, the IT Rules 2021, and now the IT Directives 2022. But most of these are ultimately aimed at providing effective remedy to affected persons or stakeholders. As far as the coverage of cybercrimes is concerned, we are pretty inadequate. The last time we covered cybercrime was 2008, when we added section 65 to section 78 in the amended forms in chapter Roman 11 on offenses. So from 2008 till 2022, 14 years have gone by. Technology has moved rapidly forward, but the law has been set up in stone. The law still is incapable of dealing with the social media crimes, cybersecurity breaches and stuff like that. We have some classical futuristic provisions in the form of section 66 and 43 of the IT Act, which talks about computer-related offenses. Technically speaking, everything that you do in today's ecosystem, when you use computers, computer systems, computer networks, computer resources, communication devices, as also data and information in the electronic form, will ultimately be dealing with computer offense. So you could broadly bring a lot of things under section 66, but that's a Mother India section. I'll rather prefer to have more detailed provisions as far as cyber crimes is concerned. But then the judiciary is implementing what the law of the land is. It struck down section 66A of the IT Act way back in 2015 in the case of Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, because that went beyond the parameters that were given under the Constitution. Because it said, look, it's an offense when somebody sends any information that's grossly offensive or menacing in character. Supreme Court said it's hard to determine what will be grossly offensive or menacing in character. So the legal frameworks are there. The judiciary is interpreting it. But from the time of 2003, when I was the counsel for India's first cybercrime conviction. From those days till today, a lot of water has flown down. When the first conviction took place, we celebrated. I was representing a commercial company, Sony. And we said, look, that's going to open up a Pandora's box of convictions. We were mistaken. Come 2008, and the amendments actually did far more disservice to India rather than service, because they said, look, barring 3 cybercrime, in India, let's make all cybercrimes as bailable offenses. So once you made, barring 3 cybercrimes, everything bailable, Indians excelled in doing what they actually do. They would come out on bail, they would destroy the relevant incriminating electronic evidence, and that's the end of any kind of a process for cybercrime conviction. On top of it, the death knell has actually been brought in by the Supreme Court, first in the case of Anwar PB versus PK Bashir, 2014, and now in 2020 in the case of Arjun Pandit Rao Kotkar versus Kailash Ghorantyal, where they've actually gone ahead and revised the entire legal framework and the legal position on electronic evidence. Today, if I'm the police, I want to prove any electronic evidence, I'll have to really go in rounds and rounds of processes and procedures. Why? I am required to give a 65B certificate. After I give my certificate, Supreme Court says, come in the witness box, face a hostile cross-examination. If I'm not successful, my 65B gets demolished. If my 65B gets demolished, my electronic evidence cannot be produced or proved in a court of law. And that's where we are beginning to find that there are gaps. That's on one side. On the other side, I think the judiciary and the judicial ecosystem is not prepared for cyber attacks. Today, if the judicial network was to be targeted, hacked, or attacked, I think we'll be sitting ducks, primarily because we haven't done enough on cybersecurity, even in the judiciary per se. We in India lack a dedicated law in cybersecurity. Like other countries, you see, when I compare India and China, I find China is miles ahead, primarily because in the last 6 years, it's come up with 3 distinctive national laws on cybercrime. Look at a small country like Indonesia. It's now, like Vietnam. Vietnam has now come up with a new cybersecurity law, which is very, very broad. And under that broad law, they are expanding the scope of their cyber sovereignty, saying, look, the entire internet is my national cyberspace. And therefore, my law applies to the entire of internet. So I think we are pretty much lagging behind vis-a-vis the legal frameworks. We need to classify judicial systems as critical information infrastructure. We need to focus on the protection and preservation of data. Already we have withdrawn the personal data protection bill back.
Right.
It's going to be a long journey ahead,
correct,
but a lot of challenges.
Right.
Thanks.
So, sir, Pant sir, आपके लिए ये सर ने कुछ थॉट दिए हैं, शायद कहाँ पहुँचाने हैं जरा प्लीज. अच्छा, Murali sir, while we were talking about products and new startups, you've been again one of the department which is also looking into this area. Any thoughts that you have when we are really progressing as an Indian when it comes to cyber specifically?
Great. How much time you will give?
So you can take 2-3 minutes.
2-3 minutes. Great. Well, see, mostly we are discussing about the capacity, capabilities, and the product, and then the legal framework and things like that. So I will take this as a type of the talent, the ecosystem, and the translation capability and the product. Okay. As for the talent is concerned, we have the talent in the country, and huge, the workforce is available, and there is a good R&D that is going on in the academic institute. So these are all, our strengths. The coming to the, the ecosystem which can take these, innovations and then take it forward for a translation and a product. There is something more we have to do in this area. For example, the type of things that happened in US way back in Second World War period, like what one of our Bush has done, in terms of creating a DARPA and NSF and things like that. That is the ecosystem which tried to bring in the academic industry and the government together. Okay. So that ecosystem created a proliferating, the type of areas where the new technologies came up, and then there is a industry participation and then economic growth also has happened. That is a history now actually. So that is the starting point where you can see our one of the biggest neighbor, they have created, the cluster model, and then they brought the same model but in a different way. In Europe also they brought, what you call the academic, the collaborations. Now, in India, we have this, the ecosystem in Xylos. Probably we need to have, in a nationally integrated framework to bring these, three helix together and then go for, rapid development of the products. Okay. So there are efforts that's going on in Government of India. I'm talking that.
Right.
The DSC also has created some of the missions. Okay.
Right.
And probably we may too.
Thank you.
enhance
Thank
this.
you very
Yeah.
much. Amit ji, you've been also on the forefront of using open source. You've been also in kind of working on that areas. Do you believe that open source kind of platforms would add value to our cybersecurity platform postures in India?
Fundamentally, if you see, it's not the question about open source or closed source for that matter. It's
Just
never been that
Can you
question.
keep it near?
The question is more about the fact that when you are looking into creating an ecosystem, how an ecosystem is created. We always talk about ecosystem. We always talk about cybersecurity companies, startups, Unicron, and somehow, we tend to, rather than looking at the places where we need to concentrate, we just go more onto the jingoism and the lingos of unicorns and all that. Unicorns and all these aspects, they are primarily, I always perceive them to be management lingos, more to do with financial aspects. But when you look at tech to be having a primality, the key part is tech. The key part is innovation. The key part is IPR. The key part is the technology that's been created out. And that is something where I personally believe that we are lagging. To be honest, it's not the fact that Indians are not capable of. If we are not, then probably most of the world's best R&D centers would not be located in India. So essentially, they are located in India. But is the IPR belonging to India? That's the fundamental question that needs to be addressed to. Another important aspect is, if you look at, let's take the case of an iPhone. Just do an internal analysis of what exactly is the amount that in a single iPhone that's paid for IPR and what is the manufacturing cost. And to be honest, the manufacturing cost is very minuscule as compared to what is paid for the IPR. And unfortunately, IPR is one of the aspects that we are not looking into. If we have to look into these aspects, we need to create these IPRs. And when we talk about creation of these IPRs, you need to look into the aspects of utilizing the codes that are in open source, which is one of the important aspects. But then subsequently, how exactly that becomes your foundational, aspects to be utilized. But how exactly they need to be tailor-made, how exactly they need to suit to a customer market, how exactly they need to be optimized so that the end product is much more beneficial. That is something we need to look at. And another important aspect, we always talk about non-availability of startups and companies in the cybersecurity domain. We need to fundamentally address one aspect is how much we as a system are concentrating to cybersecurity. And that's what initiates everything in business is demand oriented. So when you are looking at a demand is always, I need something immediate. And cyber is always about something that has to be taken up immediate. Are we planning for something which is already there? If there is something that already exists, any consumer would always go for something which is already existing. Now, at this juncture, what should be our strategy? Our strategy should be to look into those disruptive research areas in cybersecurity where the world is not yet been accustomed to. To give you a small example, for example, like we always talk about quantum computing. We always talk about quantum systems coming into the play, and most of your conventional cryptography, it's going to be useless when the moment quantum systems come into the play, and that is where you require aspects such as post quantum or quantum resistant cryptography. Now that's a niche area, that's futuristic. If that thing is done right now, essentially you create an IPR that's going to last for long. Similarly, we always talk about IoT, we always talk about 5G and all that. These are the buzzwords and so on. But are we really looking into utilization of machine learning and AI, specifically in what is called as machine-to-machine interface, how machines talk to each other and how they respond?
So, Amit,
That's the futuristic.
Quick
thing.
follow-up question to you is, when we're talking about this, don't you see that we have, when you sir says that we have resources, that people are there, you said that we are doing research, the R&D centers are there. Tell me a follow-up question. Why would not DRDO or any of our such kind of an authority start building up such kind of products and technologies, which what you are asking for can go for an IPR? Have you heard anything about that? Because I have so far in last 25 years not been able to, they do it, but that's not going as a commercial, that's like what Israel did. Whatever they did for their defense, they would finally bring out a commercial product out of it or solution out of it.
That's again, I'm glad you asked this question. Now let me talk about not just DRDO, defense R&D. You know, that's
Right,
the larger
right,
part. We
right.
always, again, as I said, we go into the lingos part of it. If you talk about defense R&D, right now, let me give you a small number. In last 3 years itself, last 3 years itself, more than 400 plus companies that have been worked, which are incubated and working on defense technologies, which are primarily, it's not the fact that DRDO doesn't, it creates systems, ab initio itself. It creates systems, but at the end of it, if you ask someone to just create a critical complex system right from middle of nowhere, it doesn't exist. So the seed funding always come from the government itself. But the new models that are currently being operated upon, where industry is a partner. One of the example is what is called as DCPP, you know, development come production partner. Now that's a new thing that's been introduced in last couple of years, and that has resulted in these many industries. To give you a small example, on 15th August, you had ATAGs that's been
Yeah.
operated upon. Now ATAGs was created by DRDO establishments in Pune along with the Kalyani group. And that's how the ATAGs, which is among the world's best artillery, is coming into. Similarly, when you are talking about missiles to other weapon systems, it is coming out. Now let's talk about cybersecurity, and probably if sir may permit, we have already under the auspice of NSCS, we have created, you know, the National Malware Repository, which is among the world's largest. It's uh, for the tech people, it's something like you have Google's Virus Total, the enterprise edition for it, you know, the complete malware analysis and all that. Now that particular framework is already been operationalized with more than 95 million unique malware samples, and which has a capacity for malware analysis of multiple platforms from Windows to this to iOS, Android, and so on, and every bit of analysis, and that's very soon would be open for the larger public, so that that's, you know, what is called as disruptive things, and critical technologies are always boosted into it. But a fundamental question, as you asked me, is a question back to you: is the next generation technologies only the responsibility of the government? No, it is not.
Of course not.
It has to be a partnership, and the partnership is the key for every future
Understood.
endeavor.
But Amit, you know, I'll hold on your thoughts, because you said there is a demand for everything and happening. The demand is also coming from the same government we all are part of. The next new demand that is coming, and that question I'll leave it up to Anand to speak about. We have to now respond within 6 hours. Anand leads one of the largest SOC for GSTN networks. So Anand, from your view, when we have this new demand which is coming, like we already have a framework, we also have guideline. Second question, sir, I will ask you, because ये 6 घंटे का नया rule जो आ गया है. So how prepared, in your thoughts, you are, or maybe our enterprise networks are, or as general, we are ready to respond back to that kind of requirement?
Hey, thanks for asking that question, because say as the after COVID we have seen a lot of say increase in the attacks. At the same time, these guidelines are there, but then fortunately in our case we are very closely working with CERTIN and NCIPC and other security agencies. So for us, say it's a default, it's part of our process, fortunately, that in case of any incident which is impacting the either availability or any CIA parameter of GST system, so that should be reported back to the government. So if you remember, in 2021 we had faced one attack. So after investigation, immediately the reports were submitted to the entire say security government security agencies. So for us, I think we are ready for that. But then enterprise-wide, when I interact with my colleagues and peers, still the questions are there, and there are many unanswered say areas where clarity is required and some kind of enablement is also required.
Right. Thanks. So before sir, Pavan ji, I'll come to you. Pant sir, while I would say, while sir said that we have resources, but if you really look at the statistics as of now, we are short of 10 lakh people in cybersecurity in India as we speak, right? And most importantly, the factor that if we have to look at the government, only government in defense for now, this ask of 6 hours, are as a government department, because I work with almost every department, states across India, do you think it is our capacity to really jump up to start giving response to it in 6 hours time? Or would you say that, we still have time, somewhere we can create certain kind of, like as you said, the SOCs are coming up. So is there any possibility that you can bring under some umbrella this MSME companies or small companies to connect and be secured?
So I wish DG Certain was here to answer this question, but let me assure you that Certain is well capable of absorbing this additional requirement. They have their servers in place. And the reason why it is 6 hours also is very important, because of the interconnected nature of cyberspace. If an indicator of compromise or a malware is detected, then the same malware is going to be used somewhere else. So it is in everybody's interest that this threat intelligence or the indicator of compromise is disseminated to all the others. Certain has a network where he is connected with 700 CISOs, and the exchange takes place in the taxi and the sticks format. It is automatically ingested into the system of these 700 CISOs. So look at the advantage of it. That so far that it was open-ended. I mean, the rule said that it will report at the earliest. What is earliest? So I think this is an excellent move that has been done. And if you see the FAQs and the appendix that has been given, it is also described as to what is construed as a cyber incident. And you don't have to give all the logs, and this is just the bare minimum. It's like in the army, we used to say a contact report. The moment you come in contact with the enemy, you report. So this is something like that. I mean, nobody is saying you give all the ORSIS logs and everything. So that has to be understood, and I think it's a good move. And Certain has the capability. For MSMEs, they have given 3 more months. And the reason was basically because of the additional requirement of equipment. But just a few weeks back, I was in CII, where we launched a program called Cyber Suraksha Kavach. And that is a free service, which is being given by CII for all the MSMEs. So a lot of things are happening on both sides, on the private sector and this sector. It is in everybody's interest. I mean, if you come under a ransomware attack and you lose money, why wait for that situation? It's better
I
to
completely agree, and I think that's a fantastic move. Cyber Surakshit Bharat banana hai, so I think some step has to be taken. I'm sure once you define those parameters, people will start working on towards. Pavan sir, इस बात पे एक क्वेश्चन आपसे कि अगर जब ये चीजें हो रही हैं, there will be so many companies which will have some or other challenges, and they may not be ready also. While we give them time to get ready, are you facing such kind of challenges from or getting such kind of cases from private enterprise organizations, which gets into this trouble of getting themselves cyber secured?
We are getting various of these issues brought forward to our clients. लेकिन समस्या है, अभी एक माइंडसेट की समस्या है. अभी सबसे पहले आपको सीईओ को कन्विंस करना पड़ता है कि साहब ऐसा आप प्लीज रिपोर्ट कर दें, ना करेंगे तो जुर्म है. उनको समझ नहीं आता कि नॉन रिपोर्टिंग स्ट्रेट अवे आपको इम्प्रिजनमेंट और फाइन की दिशा में ले जा सकती है. In a recent case, one of our clients, I had to actually convince the client for 9 hours before they finally got convinced that, okay, we will have to start looking in that particular direction. Also, ये जो 6 घंटे वाली कहानी है, वो बहुत ही ग्रे जोन है. 6 घंटे कब शुरू होते हैं? लॉ कहता है 6 घंटे शुरू होते हैं जब आपकी नॉलेज होती है. तो आपने your system gets attacked on 1st January 2022. You come to know it on 25th of August at 3 p.m. Your 6 hours start there. What happens if an email comes to your system at 1 o'clock in the night? and you're sleeping and you're the CISO. By the time you wake up and you come back to the office, your 6 hours is gone. So somewhere down the line, there will have to be more clarity. The FAQs haven't done much service for the very simple reason कि FAQs की कानून में कोई मान्यता नहीं है और FAQs कानून मानता ही नहीं है. आपको तसल्ली देने के लिए FAQs जरूर बन सकते हैं, लेकिन लीगल सैंक्टिटी उनकी कोई है नहीं, क्योंकि कोई लीगल फोर्स है नहीं. ये जो डायरेक्शंस आए हैं, ये IT एक्ट सेक्शन 87 के अंदर आए हैं, उनकी मान्यता है, बट FAQs की मान्यता नहीं है. तो अगर आप FAQs पर रिलाई करेंगे और कल आपका मुकदमा अदालत में जाएगा, तो कहीं ना कहीं आप प्रेजुडिस हो सकते हैं. So I will suggest we'll have to get in a culture of compliance. There is no doubt about the fact that this is one of the best things that has happened to India, because this is one of the most crucial developments that's going to trigger off more development of cybersecurity law jurisprudence. Mind you, we don't have a cybersecurity law, but we have some elements of cybersecurity under the IT Act, under the IT rules. And now by these directives, suddenly everybody is waking up. अभी भी टाइम लगेगा. आप सोचें कि 25 सितंबर तक भारत के सारे MSMEs खड़े हो जाएंगे और साहब रेडी हो जाएंगे, ऐसा नहीं होने वाला. लेकिन एटलीस्ट शुरुआत हो गई है. आप इतनी बड़ी जनसंख्या हमारे राष्ट्र की है. अगले साल हम लोग दुनिया के सबसे ज्यादा पॉपुलस नेशन होने वाले हैं. तो इतने बड़े नेशन को लाइन पे लाने के लिए थोड़ा समय लगेगा. एंड आई थिंक दैट टाइम विल हैव टू गिव इट. बट समवेयर डाउन द लाइन वी विल हैव टू कम अप विद सम टेस्ट केसेस. अभी क्या लगता है, एवरीबडी फील्स जुगाड़ कर लेंगे, चलो कुछ नहीं होता है, चलता है अप्रोच. बट एक दो आप टेस्ट केसेस लेकर आए, आपने एक दो मैटर्स में कन्विक्शंस करा दी, एक मैसेज, सैल्यूटरी मैसेज पूरे इकोसिस्टम में पहुंच गया, साहब दिस इज नॉट टू बी मेस्ड अप विद, इट्स बेटर दैट यू कंप्लाई. Because if you don't comply, not only do you lose up your statutory exemption from legal liability under Rule 7 of the IT Rules 2021, you also become exposed to be paying unlimited damages by way of compensation. You also become liable for being punished for offences under the Information Technology Act and the Indian Penal Code. So you have far more to lose. And सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात, you'll end up losing your reputation, your credibility. उसकी तो कोई कीमत है ही नहीं. अगर कल को मार्केट में बात आ गई कि साहब फलां कंपनी इतनी इनसिक्योर है, इनका ये ब्रीच हुआ है, उसकी भरपाई तो शायद आप कर ही नहीं पाएंगे. सो आई थिंक मोर एज अ मैटर ऑफ अबंडेंट प्रिकॉशन, मोर एज अ मैटर ऑफ ड्यू डिलिजेंस, इट विल बी क्रूशियल दैट एवरीबडी शुड स्टार्ट नाउ हैविंग दिस proactive mindset of compliance. We will have to comply with this. And I think when you start making your own systems secure, you are in a small manner contributing to the ultimate growth of the cybersecurity ecosystem. So the government needs to be complimented for this remarkable initiative. And mind you, what we have done in India, a large number of development countries have still not done. Developed countries are still looking at how India is looking at this particular model. So it will be up to us that we make this model a success. There will be some teething problems, no problem. But by and large, if our direction is correct, if our intentions are noble, and by and large we have the appropriate legal frameworks, I think we are on the right phase.
पवन जी, वो तो ठीक है. लास्ट क्वेश्चन टू एवरीबडी ऑन दिस फ्लोर. सबने कहा कि हम बढ़ रहे हैं, अच्छी तरह जा रहे हैं, बट वी हैव स्टिल प्रॉब्लम ऑफ पीपल. लोग ही नहीं है. 10 लाख तो अभी कम है. सो ईच वन, इफ यू गिव मी वन रिकमेंडेशन दैट यू शुड गिव टू गवर्नमेंट और टू द लार्जर पब्लिक, what should we do to create that capacity? Where do we get our people trained? What is your thought or innovative thought that you have कि बच्चे कहाँ से रेडी होके आएंगे जो मेरे इतनी बड़ा संख्या में जो हमें चाहिए? Right, Murali sir, we can start with you, and then everyone, please just give one recommendation. Just take 1 minute, and next person.
What I suggest is probably what an undergraduate and as well as in the PG levels, irrespective of the discipline what they're reading, the cyber security should be a type of a compulsory subject. Either mechanical engineer or a statistics or a mathematician, whoever is coming into picture, they need to have the cyber security as one of the subject, because it is interdisciplinary in nature. So that is what I think.
Just a small observation that it's not the fact that India doesn't produce the largest number of engineers in the world. The problem what we are facing is, are these engineers employable? So probably fundamentally, we need to have some interventions in the way in which our degree courses, our engineering courses that are being taught in the country, that need to be much more industry oriented. A good step has already been taken by UGC in terms of professor of practice, where industry practitioners are coming and becoming professors. Now it's been allowed in the Indian universities. The idea should be, we have the capacity. The only thing is, we need to change the quality, make them more industry employable. The numbers would automatically come.
I'm the government, I'm going to make the notes.
Sure, you have to,
But,
sir, because we
yeah.
are, as I said, sir, your health is
So,
must for us, because you are at the
no, I think
most
there are-
supreme post of securing us.
There are two parts to this. One is the education and awareness of the general public. And that will include the teaching in the schools also, in addition to what Dr. Murali mentioned, at all levels. This has to be a part of the curriculum, how to develop cyber hygiene. And the second is developing the workforce for executing cybersecurity. That has to be done in various public-private partnerships, government, because of the scale and size. So these two things will have to be tackled.
I think cyber law and cyber security will have to be part of school curriculum from the first standard onwards. No second thoughts about it. Number two, we need to supplement governmental efforts with private initiatives. So a couple of years back, I work in cyber law. I said, let me test waters. So I created an online platform called cyberlawuniversity.com. Today, I offer 36 courses online. These courses have already been done by 27,500 professionals from 174 countries, speaking 52 national languages. These figures come to amaze me because, you see, there's so much need for capacity building. And I think today a professional doesn't have time. He doesn't have the time to do official certifications. He wants no gyan. He wants the ready-made stuff which is available to him. And those practical orientations and practical perspectives, I think, are crucial. So if we can have these kind of industry-driven courses, which could be given support by the government, that could be a great step going forward, because we need to enhance capacities. And currently, the systems are not very well geared up to enhance capacities. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, when it comes to fast-changing areas like cybersecurity, I think my suggestion is that we should concentrate on good raw materials than good finished products. Because if you design a curriculum course and the candidate coming out after 4 years of BTech or whatever it is, by the time a lot of things will become obsolete. So right from class, I'm not saying class 1 and all, your education system by and large should improve to make them more employable, like Amsar was saying, in any profession. So then we'll get good raw materials and see the people who are handling cybersecurity nowadays, and what they studied and what were they doing. It's not that they got trained over a period of 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. So they, concentrate on good raw materials, good human beings, good academically sound people.
Sure.
You need not worry about that.
Thank you, sir. Anand ji, aap to.
I think I agree with views of all of these veterans, because they have covered everything. And where it comes, the availability of resource, at least as an enterprise, we feel that we have few positions open, but then finding the appropriate skill and the resources, at times it becomes a tough task. Skill retention again is a challenge, because currently if you look at market is open with opportunities, and a single guy will have, at least in the cybersecurity space, he will have 3-4 opportunities, and he would be continuously bargaining and opting for the best fit for him. But then yes, I think the suggestions given by other panelists, it will help us to ensure that whatever skills in cybersecurity we are creating, those skills will find appropriate space within the public-private enterprise, and we will be able to capitalize on that.
Thanks, Anand. It's been a pleasure to lead the entire panel of people here. I have only 2 minutes. If any questions that you have for just
one.
Sure.
One announcement, it's just a precursor of this afterthought, I would rather put it that way. DRDO has a scheme called as Technology Development Fund. Now, in cybersecurity specifically, if any of the startups, any of the individuals, any of the companies, MSMEs, they are looking for developing of next generation disruptive technologies. So that can be approached, in which the R&D is being funded by the government, of course, after due evaluations and so on, specifically right from 1 crore to 50 crores. And that would be to industry, to MSME, to SMEs, even to individual contributors and academia and so on. But the key thing is that technology needs to be disruptive, and that technology needs to be. It was just a afterthought.
Thank you. That's a good information for everyone here in the audience. Okay, I'll only take two questions. Only two questions. Sir, you.
I'm Commander Piyush Baranwal from Navy. So I've basically got two questions. The first is regarding cyber crime. On the surface of it, what we are seeing is that a lot of initiatives are coming from the central government, where like National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal and all that is there. So it appears that a lot of efforts are being put in place. But when I was going through the NCRB data, what it shows is that the conviction rates in cyber crime is 0.1% or 0.02% or somewhere around that. So what are we fundamentally doing wrong as a nation? That is question number one. Or what steps we need to take to improve the conviction rate and make the cyber domain as a public good more secure and that kind of thing. The second question is regarding monetization of data. So recently in the news, we read that IRCTC is looking at monetization of usage data. What we have heard till now is Facebook is monetizing, Google is monetizing user data. This is the first time it's come to public domain that the government is monetizing citizens' data. So is this a new trend which we are looking at, or what are we doing it? What are we doing about it? I'll just request if anyone in the panel can answer these two questions.
Can I take the cybercrime question? I can tell you very clearly, we are thoroughly ill-equipped to deal with cybercrime. With the coming of COVID-19, the golden age of cybercrime has begun, and it's going to be with us for the next many decades. Having said that, I think we need to do our homework properly. The electronic evidence law is so complicated that trying to get a conviction in our country is a humongous task. And as a law enforcement agency, we are continuously failing. So somewhere down the line, now when electronic evidence is so much around us, in fact, we have all become global authors, global transmitters, and global broadcasters of data. And when we become data entities, I think the presumption should be that electronic evidence should be able to be produced and proved more easily as a default option. And if somebody messes it up, go and hang him up, no problem. But let the entire population not suffer because of this particular exercise. And now with the stringent guidelines coming in Arjun Pandit Rao Kotkar, it becomes a huge task for law enforcement agencies on cybercrime. Also, I think our law is defective. I would have loved if India had a dedicated law on cybercrime. We don't have. Consequently, now we have the Supreme Court judgment, which says that, look, if in a matter an IT Act is invoked, then IPC cannot be invoked. So we suddenly have these huge procedural problems. We think we need to be doing that. On your monetization question, I'll leave it to other panelists, but I can tell you, if you are as a government entity walking into monetization, you are clearly walking into a well of fire. Why? Because the IT Act has huge number of legal ramifications waiting for you, apart from huge legal challenges that are going to be coming in. Because when you collected my data as IRCTC, you never took my permission for using that data. And if you use that data, it will be in violation of Section 43A of the Information Technology Act 2000, which could expose the entity to unlimited damages by way of compensation. So a lot of legal challenges, but I'll leave it to other panelists. Thanks.
Pant sir, would you like to answer that?
See, you're right about cybercrime. I mentioned 3,500 cases we get on the portal every day, and there's hardly any prosecution. There are various reasons for that. The state-to-state police aspect is there, etc., and the finance system is there. The law, as he rightly said today, in the IT Act, all the offences are less than 7 years imprisonment. And whenever there is less than 7 years, they are all bailable offences. So they are getting away with it. So while the Cybersecurity Act, there's a task force being set up in MHA for working, the modality of that. But we are not waiting for that. What we are doing, the way we are doing it, is that we are trying to prevent the crimes from taking place. So you would have noticed the banks have started this multi-factor authentication aspect. The UPI we are addressing. We had started this 1930 helpline. So that when you ring up 1930, you only have to give 5 parameters. What's your account number, name, etc. So that the process of stopping that money starts immediately. Because in cybercrime.gov.in, you have to give a large number of data which takes time to fill up, where you get a registration number, etc. So a number of elements with the Ministry of Finance, with the cybercrime, etc. have begun to prevent this cybercrime so that we don't reach that stage. As far as the data part is concerned, it happened some time back also. The Ministry of Transport was also trying to monetize it. But Pavan Duggal has said is there is a point in that. Even if we anonymize the data, still there is an issue. I think we are all waiting. It's more than high time now for the data protection framework to come. Yesterday we celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Puttaswamy case. And personal, non-personal framework. I mean, I just hope in the winter session, whatever the minister has said comes true. We are all waiting for that. I think that should address those issues of sensitive, personal, and that data.
Okay, one last question, not more than that, please. Thank you, sir.
General Saab, we are talking of cybercrime, and at the same time, our Parliamentary Consultative Committee of talking of privacy of data. These things are very contradictory, and we have to have a balancing act. In China, they teach their students first year itself of cybersecurity and hacking. So why not to have these type of courses specifically for our school kids to take care of these things?
So that is happening. If you see the hackathons that we keep having at various levels, it is for school kids, and I can tell you we have brilliant minds. The way their problem solving techniques appear, but there is always an Indian way of doing things. A lot of people tell me this happens in China, this happens in the US. The way the government of India works is for finding solutions within the environment of our nation based on our national interest. If you see the way we tackle the telecom sector, all the other nations said Huawei is banned, ZTE is banned. We said we will not take any names. But what we will say is that the person who can come in has to be a trusted source. So we did it in a different manner. And you'll find some other things, like we've created this national malware repository, also is our solution. Because when people report to VirusTotal, that is a company of Google. So all our data, Google knows who's infected with what malware. So there are issues that we have to do, but your point is well taken.
You had a question, please.
Just a small question. I'm a professor in Amit University on artificial intelligence. My question is for Dr. Pavan Duggal. What according to you is the legal impediment against the encrypted products? Why is it still legal in India, whereas US has made encrypted products illegal?
India has not made up its mind on encryption. When we amended the Information Technology Act in the year 2008, we added Section 84A, which says that the central government may come up with a national policy on encryption. In the mid 2014-15, we saw a government coming up with a draft encryption policy, but because it was so defective, it had to be withdrawn back. Since then, we haven't yet seen the government coming up with any dedicated policy on encryption. So as of now, my only legal document is an NTP, National Telecom Policy 1999, which only talks of a legality of a 40-bit encryption. So the IT Act in the year 2000 did not talk of encryption, only used the word decryption at one place. But now with 84A coming in, all the eyes are on the government on when it comes up with a new enabling national policy of encryption. As of now, since that policy doesn't come in, we'll have to wait for the government.
Is it because of tax collection that we are allowing encryption transactions, blockchain and all?
I think, we haven't made up our mind. We don't know how do we want to legally regulate blockchain.
Right.
How do we want to recognize crypto assets, cryptocurrencies? On AI, we haven't even started our homework. Whereas the draft law on artificial intelligence at the European Union is at a very advanced stage of its stuff. Come 1st of January 2020, and a small state of Illinois in the United States of America already passes and implements a law on artificial intelligence called the Artificial Intelligence Video Interview Act of 2020. So I think we really need to do a lot of work to enable these newly emerging technologies to contribute to the growth of India.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, just to summarize what we had the discussion on this panel, and fantastic panel, applause for everybody here. Three thoughts that I want to leave with. One is definitely, as we understood, that a lot is happening from initiative perspective from India government, and as we move forward. But two areas which requires immediate thought is definitely to build the capacity of people, and of course the law itself, right? And I think we have the eminent people here who will pass on the information to the right people up there. Thank you everyone for being here. Fantastic audience. Thank you very much.